Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Soukayna and today I will present to you the article I developed in collaboration with my colleague Merien, related to the framework of control levers, an exploratory analysis of the balance within Moroccan companies listed on the Casablanca Stock Exchange. Through this research, we aim to examine the concept of balance of control levers within Moroccan companies listed on the Casablanca Stock Exchange. Our goal is to provide empirical information on the various existing equilibrium models. The impact of control levers framework on management control research is undeniably significant. However, this framework has been criticized mainly because of the notion of balance. Indeed, the central theme of control levers framework, Simon 1995, is that control is achieved by balancing the forces of four control levers, which are belief control, limit control, diagnostic control, and interactive control. The power of these four levers does not lie in the way each one of them is used, but in the way they complement each other, which helps creating balance. According to Simon 1995, these levers generate positive and negative forces which jointly lead to a dynamic tension between innovation and strategic renewal. They also create predictable achievements of objectives that guarantee the long-term success of the organization. By identifying the empirical manifestation of equilibrium, our study should highlight a key concept in the framework of control lever. We want to shed some light on this concept while assuming that is a limited number of configurations, including combination of the four control levers that are not necessarily equal. Based on the configuration theory, we assume that multiple combination of levers can result in equilibrium. We note that balance can be achieved differently from one company to another, and this is certainly due to various external and internal contingency factors that management must take into account before defining the weight of each control levers. First, we are going to introduce to you the framework of the control lever of Simon 1995, as well as the notion of equilibrium. Then we will present the configuration theory that we use in the framework of this study. Finally, we will present our research methodology, results, and discussions. According to Simon 1995, strategy control is achieved through the combination of the four control levers. The advantage of their joint utilization lies in their complementarities. Each lever is linked to certain goals that the leaders need to activate according to the strategic objectives. Simon 1995 attests that the four levers of control work together and influence each other, which creates a balance. So, what is balance? This notion of balance in terms of strategic control through the mix of the four levers remain unclear and arouses the interest of several researchers. Henry 2006 states that the two types of use of interactive and diagnostic management control system work together but for different purposes. He argues that their power lies in the voltage generated by the balanced utilization. However, Henry 2006 does not specify what his balance looks like. Widener 2007 explained dynamic tensions as the influence of one control lever on other. She concludes that performance is improved when the management control system is made up of the four control levers. But she does not provide any evidence on the importance of each lever of control in order to achieve a state of equilibrium. Manji 2010 also underlines the importance of the notion of balance in the work of Simon, and points out the ambiguity of this notion in management control system. A balanced control structure is therefore a system that combines the four levers in an optimal way. Sauder, Heavy, Veja, Semsek argues that we cannot consider every imaginable combination of levers as a potential case of equilibrium. On the one hand, it is unlikely that every possible combination of exploration and exploitation leads to desired organizational results. On the other hand, we note that the rationale of Simon is based on the fact that the four levers must be configured to support each other and that mutually beneficial relationships are rare. This leads to the fact that a number of potentially balanced arrangements must be limited. These two considerations allude to the thought of organizational configuration. The notion of configuration refers to a group of distinct organizational attributes that are often found together. Our research is based on data from a survey of 75 Moroccan companies listed in Casablanca Stock Exchange. Our survey based on items previously used and validated by previous research. Our respondents are head of units, departments of service who are responsible for the performance of teams of employees. Our survey is composed of 4 variables, which are diagnostic control system, interactive control system, limit system, and belief system. In order to study different balancing agreements of the existing levers of control in our sample, we opt for cluster analysis. For creating homogeneous classes, we conduct hierarchical classification using the intergroup distance method and as measure the square of Euclidean distance. We choose this method because it allows the creation of homogeneous groups without explaining the criteria for this homogeneity. This method consists of minimizing the intragroup and maximizing the intergroup variances. This allows us to create a group with compatible characteristics. The results of which are as follows. We have the first cluster, the second cluster, the third cluster, and the fourth cluster. The first group include 32 companies, which represent 43% of the population's study. Companies on these clusters have high score on all the levers compared to the companies of the other clusters. The monitoring of this group appears to be close and intensive. The emphasis placed on the diagnostic and limit levers leads up to suppose that these companies closely monitor their achievements of objectives previously set by management. However, the emphasis placed on the interactive levers and belief can be explained by the fact that they actively analyze the environment, looking for threats and new strategic opportunities. Companies in this cluster are satisfied with their current strategies, but are looking to expand their strategic portfolios with a new area of activity. We can characterize them as ambidextrous, since they are focused on exploitation and exploration. Let's have a second look to this first cluster. So, now I will analyze the second cluster, this one. The second group includes 11 companies, which represent 13% of the population studied. The overall intensity of monitoring at this cluster level is moderate. Companies in this group have the highest score on interactive control leverage and belief leverage compared to other groups. For these clusters, companies strongly activate interactive and belief levers. However, we observe a weak intensity of the limits and diagnostic levers compared to other groups. We can conclude that companies in this group promote the opening up of organizational actors to the environment by encouraging them to seize the opportunities available in order to nurture their current strategy. The positive correlation between the belief lever and the interactive lever is logical. This is due to the fact that employees' autonomy requires a perfect knowledge of organizational values so that they can make the right decision. This is a second look to second cluster. Now I will analyze the third cluster, this one. The third group includes 15 companies, which represents 20% of the studied population. The overall intensity of control at this cluster level is relatively low compared to other clusters. Companies in this group activate all four control levers with the same intensity, except that we notice that the score of all levers are significantly low compared to the other groups. The companies in this cluster are neither focused on strategic emergence and innovation nor on persistent monitoring of state goals. We can conclude that these are calm companies who fear no threats and tend to achieve their organizational goals without tight control. Now we will analyze the third and the last cluster. The fourth group includes 17 companies, which represent 23% of the studied population. The overall intensity of monitoring at this cluster level is moderate. Companies in this group have the highest score on diagnostic control level and limit level compared to other groups. For this cluster, companies strongly activate the diagnostic and limit levels. However, we observe low intensity of beliefs and interactive levels compared to other groups. We can explain this by the ardent desires of companies in this group to avoid risk-taking through encouraging organizational actors to achieve the objectives set without being entitled to a margin of creativity. Given the low intensity of beliefs and interactive control, we conclude that strategic change and innovation are not forthcoming. This strong demand from the diagnostic and limiting couple to the detriment of belief and interactive couple can be explained by the need of these companies to capitalize on their current assets and capacities. Thank you for your attention.